FutureDad 2. Lies. Life's deep water. Oh, what a tangled web we weave, when first we practice to deceive. Walter Scott. Lies in movies and TV are dramatic and uncomplicated. In the rom-com, the naive, kind-hearted girl walks in on her slimy husband doing something he shouldn't. In the gritty drama, the unsung detective finds the suitcase of money in the car of the puffed-up charity boss. We shake our heads at the malfeasance or the unforgivable betrayal and hope that justice is done. We feel grateful we do not suffer at the hands of the same deceit. Then after switching off, we carry on with our lives, blissfully unaware we are submerged in a permanent, thick soup of lies. Lies to which we all contribute. In real life, lies are the steady drip of a tap that you pretend not to hear. Filling your house with water you pretend not to feel, in which you are forced to swim around, bumping into this or that, whilst telling your fellow swimmers that you were always swimming. It was always like this. Inevitably, you swallow some of the water and splutter it out when it interrupts your daily to and fro. But you slowly and surely learn to breathe in it. The water has filled your home and your life and replaces the air you breathe. You start to forget a time before the dripping began. If someone were to ask you, how did all this water come to fill your house? You'd say, what water? The water is not there because of incompetent plumbing. It is there because the plumbing was deliberately built that way. Built by millions upon millions of dishonest people, each putting in place a new section of the complex pipework, despite the multitude of cracks and holes already there. This teetering edifice spans the whole of society, and we are all slowly drowning. People lie for a living. They lie because it's easy. They lie because they are afraid. They lie for gain. They even lie when they don't need to. And they especially lie when there is the smallest inconvenience caused by not lying. Advertising, to take one obvious example, is almost always a lie. Let's explore a mundane example like low-fat yogurt. You, the consumer, are expected to ignore that forcing anything in a food product to be lower something must result in higher something else. It is like pushing down a bubble in wallpaper. Yet most people passively participate in this simple lie by not bothering to investigate. They will trust the institutions behind it, pay them money, and eat the goddamn yogurt. But the deeper you look, the bigger, the more pernicious the lie gets. Behind that lies another lie, and another. It's lies all the way down. The yogurt company executive knows the low-fat content has never, and will never, help with weight loss. But in meetings with the advertising agency, the yogurt executive defends and reinforces the lie because all he cares about is how to promote the brand. He will also sweeten this lie to himself by insisting that the consumer should do their own homework, but deep down knows that they won't. Drip, drip, drip. Likewise, like a tennis rally in the eighth circle of hell, the advertising executive will pass the lie straight back, but with his own side spin. Firstly, by lying about the size of the advertising impact to this social group or that, knowing full well that the research is hazy and the results paid for by the advertising industry itself. Then the ad executive will additionally lie that it is better for the brand, not to mention society, that a statistically baffling mixed-race couple should feature in the advert, like all their other adverts. It's the current year, and what sort of monster doesn't want to combat racism? In truth, combating racism with racial inserts is an amorphous idea in his head, inserted by an activist dressed as a journalist who will say absolutely anything for clicks. But it certainly feels right to the ad executive, so he will lie to himself that it must be true. Anyway, his head office have already decreed by email that the advert must have, quote, diverse representation because it's the, quote, right thing to do. In fact, the person who wrote that email also lied by omission. She was actually told by her manager that the company's ESG score depended on minority representation and to just send the effing email. Her manager was in turn told that his bonus depended on a parade of non-whites, so he maintained the lie by his financially compliant silence. Meanwhile, the food agency, which provided the original guidance to advertisers, was in turn coerced by a government official to nudge people towards this low-fat message, because the general public aren't discerning enough to know any better. This is also a lie. In truth, he knows people do question it, but an industry lobbyist pays very well to fortify the message, and that pays for 2 ski trips per year to a resort that none of the general public the lie is aimed at can afford. Further up the chain, the lies get bigger, but increasingly more revelatory. Several decades ago, senior government ministers discovered that the declining fertility rates meant that future state pensions would not be paid, and there would be acute civil unrest if painful corrective action was taken to fix it. Instead of that, they decided a less painful, voter-friendly solution was to fill the financial hole with immigrants. More specifically, printing money to pay for pensions while importing the third world to soak up the worst of the inevitable inflation. Organic, quantitative easing. A multi-decade lying campaign was thus prepared, so the populace would accept vastly more immigration than the society could possibly cope with. Anyone who complained too loudly would be silenced by accusing them of bigotry. Above even that, wealthy corporate donors and very powerful figures meta-lied in support of these intermediate lies to A. reduce labour costs, and B. hide a much more incendiary directive to completely erase the difference between nations and rule over the hoped-for homogeneous global blob. They lied to themselves and to each other that the motivation was to create a more harmonious world and centralise the fight against manufactured global issues. But it was actually the control and power that made them very, very excited indeed. So you see, we have started with one simple advertising initiative, and when you walk to the edge of it and look over, it's lies all the way down. Whether it's low-fat yogurt, or climate, online dating, or war, there is a galactic black hole-sized lie at the centre of it, and a shimmering constellation of lies swirling all the way round. It is tantalising to think of these lies like threads in a very old and fragile sweater. Once pulled in the right way, you could unravel the whole ugly structure. You could be an investigative journalist and bring the whole corrupt system down. But actually, no, absolutely not. Skiing holidays are at stake, car payments are at stake, pensions are at stake. Don't count on the truth when someone's financial future relies on telling you the opposite. So the sweater hangs together, becoming ever more decrepit and misshapen over time. It is sometimes said you can ignore nature, but you cannot ignore the consequences of ignoring nature. Don't lies work the same way? What are the real-life outcomes of these phony structures? It's very simple. Truth is deleted, removed, or censored, and it's seen as completely normal. On the 9th of December 2021, Good Morning Britain, a British TV show, deleted a poll after 89% of Brits said no to the idea of mandatory COVID vaccine. Nothing happened. There was no public outcry about the deletion. No one lost a job. No one cared enough to do anything. Was it always like this? No, the lies were simpler, more isolated, and less compounding. We were closer to nature. The further you get from nature, the more the lies can pile up without consequence. It's hard to lie to yourself and to others about your personal fitness if you live in the savannah and you're too fat to run from a predator. It's hard to lie about a real-life leaky tap when the water starts to rot the floorboards. Technology is not to blame. It has no opinion on what you choose to do with it. You can use it to plough fields or video call your grandmother. It does not force you to participate in the lie. The blob can and does leverage technology as a power multiplier to distance us all from the truth, but the same technology can be used to rediscover the truth and amplify it. What to do about this? There is one healthy, rational way that doesn't involve picking a fight with the world. Just assume it's all lies, withdraw your consent and make preparations to live your best life. When it all falls down, and it will, you can still live that best life. What does this look like in practice? When you see an advert, don't read it as information, read it as a claim. At best, an unverified claim. At worst, utter nonsense, and actually revealing of what's really on the advertiser's mind, like something you might hear a drunk shout up at a neighbour's window. When you read a news headline, don't read it as news, read it as a claim, an unverified claim. The person who discovered it, the person who wrote it, the person who read it out, their managers, their investors, their advertisers, will all gleefully participate in the lie. Occasionally unknowingly, but participate in it they will. Especially, and almost always, when the lie is couched in terms of it being for your own good. Or a millionfold worse, the public good. When you receive a text from a friend, don't read it as information, read it as a claim, an unverified claim. Are they you? Do they have your actual interests and well-being at heart? Are they helping your objectives? Or are they covertly asking you to participate in theirs? Even someone very close to you will do this. They may do it with all the wisdom and love they can muster, but it is often still a lie, and you are best served by holding it and them at arm's length. You can still be friends, but cautiously so. See FutureDad 10, even your best friends are temporary. So who can you trust? Completely? Only yourself. You can admire others, you can love others. See FutureDad 4, avoid love to find love. But if you want to be on the road that elevates your life to the one best lived, assume all roads to either side are strewn with lies, both large and small, seen and unseen, benign and malevolent. And when you find people who tell you the truth when a lie would be easier and much less painful, and who do so repeatedly without fanfare, hold on to them, encourage them, invest in them, be truthful back to them. Their path is likely in the same direction as yours. I leave you with some lies you may encounter, some benign and well-intentioned, some not. There are many more. See FutureDad 38, Why Do the Elite Lie About Everything? In time, you may seemingly have different lies to deal with, but they will simply be dressed up that way. Underneath, they will still be the same old lies. 1. Islamic terrorism has nothing to do with Islam. 2. When it comes to dating, be yourself. 3. Democracy is worth saving. 4. Trust the experts. 5. Fat makes you fat. 6. Men and women are/should be equal. 7. There's a climate change emergency. 8. Follow your dreams. 9. National pride is wrong. 10. All cultures are equally valuable. Notice them and act accordingly. FutureDad.